I want to welcome the bill and congratulate Deputy Catherine Martin for putting the bill. I think that obviously, and I went to the briefing today, and I think that obviously there are some very moving and very emotive circumstances which will apply to these bill, and probably people who've come into the gallery as well. And obviously we'll be supporting this bill and see it as an aid, a very practical aid for families and mothers who are dealing with the traumatic time of their life. And while I would reiterate everything that's been said, we should of course extend the period of statutory entitlements for benefit for premature babies to cover the length of time between the delivery date of the baby and the date the baby would have delivered if full term was achieved. I also would like to make the point, and I think it's been made already by others, but I'd like to reiterate it, that in general we should be doing more for mothers and families. It's always been of deep irony for me and for others that many in this government and in previous governments who profess to be pro-family and pro-life often fall short of seeing a regime that actually does its best to support mothers and families. And the example of Joan Burton cutting the maternity benefit in the past government is one probably of the worst recent examples of that. But if we were to measure maternity leave and payment for maternity leave against the rest of Europe, we come in second worst of all European countries in terms of the amount of weeks we give women off and the level of pay we give them, identified by a British academic study as where an employee receives about 66% of their normal earnings or more. And that's not what happens here. It's certainly not what happens here in the private sector. Private sector employers have no obligation to pay women any top-up or to pay them any maternity leave. And really, I think that also has to change. So instead of making employers do as they do in other European countries, we have the state step in to pay €235 a week in maternity benefit for 26 weeks, and of course this is correct, but there should be some pressure put on private enterprise to pay up for maternity leave. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite, and I know many women whose contracts were not renewed because they fell pregnant, and it's very difficult to prove, but this it often happens to women in this country in this day and age. We don't really legally enforce maternity pay, and I believe that at this stage private capitalists are being let off the hook and they should be made to pay their share. We support a women's right to choose, and that's on the record in this House, and that means to choose to have a child or to terminate a pregnancy. And making the choice to have a child means that society has to put proper economic and social and health care provision in place for both the mother, the child and the family in general. Unfortunately, we can see from the record of this country of homelessness and the numbers of families in hotels every night that this is not the case, but that is the sort of thing we need to aspire to, and I think Catherine Martin's bill plays some role in a step towards that. And as a pro-choice activist herself, I'm not surprised that it's coming from somebody on the pro-choice side. So I want to congratulate Catherine for putting the bill.